Good morning to you all, and welcome to another edition of the Sal Greco Show. And I'm your host, Sal Greco. Thank you all for tuning in. I see you in the chat already. Fox, Joel Ramirez, shout out to you. You guys are always in here. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, please hit that like, share, subscribe button. Hit the notification button as well. If you're watching us on Rumble right now live, please hit that Rumble button, hit that like button. And if you're watching us on X, please hit that like button and share this out, especially those in the low information bubble that you probably have a lot of friends like that you don't want to say out loud. But show them this show, because this is the thinking man and thinking woman's show, all right? Where you don't get wrapped up in all kinds of hyperbole and innuendos. I see you, 92 Charlie and Hunter NY1. Yeah, no, I can't start at 8:05. You guys, you know why? Especially on a Monday, I like to start in the mid morning. But there's a lot to get to, and of course, I have a special guest today, someone you guys may recognize from the NYPD, who he himself was railroaded like myself. But there's a story here I'm going to touch up on, because this, if you follow this show, I've always mentioned the entire nightlife experience from the Eric Adams administration and how it was about partying to the break of dawn. So one of the places Mr. Eric Adams and the illustrious, at the time, police commissioner Ed Caban and his little crew of misfits would hang out at is Zona de Cuba. Zona de Cuba was owned by the faux Republican Fernando Mateo, who was good friends of Eric Adams and also of the one and only mob associate and self-admitted criminal Jimmy Rodriguez, who co-owned Con Sofrito with Richard Caban, which was the brother of Ed Caban. But there's a story here nobody knew about, right? And this comes in the New York Post. Two ex-NYPD cops sentenced for sexually assaulting passed-out woman as survivor details trauma. I feel nothing but anger and rage. And I just wanted to get to this because this is unbelievable. Julio Alcantara Santiago, 40, and Christian Garcia, 32, was sentenced on Friday at Bronx Supreme Criminal Court after taking a plea agreement for the assault that unfolded on July 9, 2023. And what you didn't know about this, if you haven't heard about this incident, this woman was at Zona de Cuba, okay? Zona de Cuba on June 8, 2023, where these two guys that were off duty, apparently, ended up taking her home and basically sexually assaulted her. And they didn't get to this until April 2024, Internal Affairs, watching this surveillance footage. And it helped connect these people to the crime, even though she kind of you would have seen this from the cameras from inside the restaurant. But, of course, this is Eric Adams' friend. That's Jimmy Rodriguez's friend, probably the nightlife mayor, Jeff Garcia, who was seen there numerous times with this guy. And I told you that this incident had happened, yet why was the SLA not revoking their liquor license? This is something you need to ask, because, as you know, Con Sofrito was operating with a illegal shed. It was a fire trap, all this nonsense, and they stayed open. So how did Zona de Cuba stay open? Because now they shut down. Obviously, they closed. But these two officers essentially sexually assaulted a woman coming out of there with, too much liquor involved. Why were they even open, right? But hey, Eric Adams had a state of the state address 1 year, and right after that went to Zona de Cuba and was partying with his administration and police commissioner at Caban, a couple other NYPD cronies. That was the party administration. So you see now the damage that is left inflicted on people from the Eric Adams administration. This is just a little bit of stuff that you see. There's more to come. But this was something I touched up on, and people kind of ignored it and forgot. But this is the ramifications of Con Sofrito through Zona de Cuba, which is another place that was full of incidents, yet no action ever took place there. I wonder why. They remained open. So, now I'm going to get to, listen, if you need to shop, right, why would you just shop with your wife and your kids and have like 40 minutes of a fiasco in front of you when you could just go to myfreedomcart.com/the Sal Greco Show, and you could shop there. That's where you need to shop. You shop with Patriots, and you won't have to deal with standing online, chasing your kids around. Your spouse has to go and chase the kids. This is a lot easier, and you can shop with Patriots and buy America-made products, American-made products. Also, you know, over the weekend, there was a lot of news, but if you search on certain search engines, you're going to get it all biased. So why would you do that when you could just use free spoke? I know you surf the internet and you search for things on the search engine and you don't get what you're looking for. Well, I have a solution for you, and that's Free Spoke. Free Spoke is a search engine that does everything without all the restrictions and all the censorship, and there's no porn ads. Free Spoke is about authenticity rather than agendas. Labels media bias, no intrusions or data leaks. No porn ads, like I said, unlimited, unbiased AI. Also, deep dive podcasting. You can look it up. Go to freespoke.app.link/Greco. Download the app. You could also use the same link to get 35% off the premium subscription, which would be well worth it. Try it out. freespoke.app.link/Greco. Have it, folks, and Greco 35 to get your 35% discount on Free Spoke. You should definitely have it on your apps, in your apps, so that you get your news. You could, if you want it left leaning or right leaning, they allow that too, but you won't just get one narrative, which seems to be, what's going on here. Yeah, I see. Shout out there. Hassan Mo is in the chat, the chatter box. Of course, I still have your espresso. I have not forgotten about you. And yes, Fox did just tune in on time. It's great. And Hunter NY, and also Eric Sanders is in the chat. So shout out to Eric too for being here. So I have a special guest today. We're going to discuss a lot. Obviously, there's a lot going on with the Minneapolis. It's now become a furor around all the country. It's protest galore. And, I predicted this would happen, right? I said this. So without any further ado, I'm going to have former NYPD sergeant and a good friend of mine, Stephen Bishop Lee, on stage. Stephen, how are you, man? What's going on, brother?
How you doing? Doing good.
Steve is a fellow crusader against corruption, who also had a few things happen to him. 18 years in the police department, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I did 18 years. I did 8 years in 6-7 precinct, and then I got promoted, and I did 2 years in 109 precinct. Shortly getting there, I went undercover because my SOL lieutenant, I was condition sergeant, so my SOL lieutenant wanted to put fake rape charges on my commanding officer, and I gave my CO a heads up at the time, and he asked me to go undercover with internal affairs, which is I had no choice. And I subsequently exposed a higher tier of corruption involving chiefs and then stuff like that. They shut down the operation when, we got evidence on the chiefs and everything. And, of course, they covered it up. They shit-canned it. The isolated situation, they swept it under the rug. And then when I made a big stink about it, that's when they started retaliating against me. And that's when I hired Eric Sanders. And, they just started retaliating against me for another 10 years after that. And, 8 years after that. And then, I went to internal affairs for 2 years. I seen the darkness there, and you can't unsee it, man. You can't unsee it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's just, they're more dirty than the cops out in the street. So
that's we're going to get to internal affairs. But one of the reasons I wanted you on, obviously, because you have 18 years in the police department. So
yes,
you've seen this video of this ICE agent and the incident there. And I always said this, I even was on my friend's show, Crowdsource the Truth, but I think you guys should check out. My good friend Jason Goodman's also been on the show. And I mentioned this, and I mentioned the entire incident. And I played at that time, the new video that people did not see, which was the point of view of the ICE agent. And for me, what I saw was, listen, they're going to use this scant federal guideline, like this rule that they have, that if they feel threatened or you do something to them, that they can shoot. So in my opinion, all this fervor that you see in the media and the narratives is, in the end, he will be justified and he'll be indemnified, which is all that matters. Because as you've seen, Stephen, there was another shooting just a few years ago involving the Capitol Police Lieutenant Michael Byrd, who shot and killed Ashley Babbitt, and we could call that a murder as well, right? You want people to call murder. But in this instance, it was a female that was protesting and blocking the street, and when approached, decided to use her car to, try to run over this agent. When she actually hit him, you could actually see it. So I don't know what your take is. I think in the end, justified and indemnified, it doesn't really matter. And people don't, whether you like it or not. And look, those tactics are horrendous, and all of those guys need retraining. I don't know what kind of training ICE is doing for car stops, but still in the end, they're going to use that federal guideline, and that's how he's going to get justified and indemnified. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. From my point of view, terrible tactics, terrible.
Horrible.
Shouldn't have the cell phone out to begin with. If you don't have a body cam, you don't have a body cam. That's it. Like why you have your cell phone out, while you're in front of the car. Every time I done the car stop, I learned my lesson the first day. Don't stand in front of the car because, in 6-7, we used to stop the dollar vans, and they take off on us all the time. And you never stand in front of the car. Never stand in front of the car. It's just bad tactics. End of the day, though, legal-wise, yes, definitely identified. Definitely nothing's going to happen to this guy. That's what counts, because you don't have to pay out of your pocket for legal fees, and if anything does happen, like you get sued and they get awarded money, the family gets awarded money or whatever, it doesn't come out of your pocket, right? So it doesn't hurt you. You go about your day, you're not even involved in it. The legal team will debrief you over the phone, and that's it. You don't even hear about it. But
hey, look at this. They're already raising money for him, and he's got $400,000. We don't even know if he's being put through the ringer yet.
I don't agree with them raising money for him. I mean, the whole
I haven't heard he's not being charged from what I know, right? There's no investigation. They might be looking into it. I haven't heard him needing legal, like lawyers and stuff. I haven't heard anything yet. So
right, exactly. So it's like I don't agree with the raising money for him and stuff like that. Would I have shot? No, I wouldn't have shot in that case. Absolutely not. I wouldn't even have been, in front of the car to begin with, But at the end of the day, it's he's identified. Also, to play devil's advocate, the lady shouldn't have ran off on him. She shouldn't have driven off. She should have just, stopped and see what they wanted, finish the investigation, and go about your day. Because she's a citizen, she's not getting deported, she's not getting arrested, she didn't do anything wrong, right? Supposedly. And nothing's gonna happen to her, so she should just stay on the scene, let it play out, and then go about her day then, or be like, hey, I don't want to answer any questions, I'm out of here, please move out of the way, and drive off. But speeding off like that, they're both wrong. Unfortunately, she was to be politically correct, what's the word, unalived, right?
Yeah. And
my heart goes out to the family and everything, but it's tragic. But at the end of the day, it's indemnified. The shooting will be justified, and it's unfortunate though. Bad tactics. They definitely need retraining on that.
Exactly. That's my whole thing. I second everything you just said, because in the end, the tactics were horrible. We in the NYPD would never train that way. I don't know where the hell you would get in front of a car, let alone point a gun. But again, he was dragged. Also, the other ICE, and I'm playing devil's advocate now. We're going both sides. The other ICE agent was trying to open the door, which is something you never do, because the car's not even in park. So, right. and then I hear the other argument of she was looking at him, so then she, whatever reason, gets startled, but she floored the car and spun into the, and again, you are responsible for being behind the wheel of a vehicle. I did this all the time with the NYPD, right? When you arrest someone who's DWI. You were driving, right? So you're responsible. So there's a whole bunch of angles to look at this here, even Eric, because he says there's a fundamental misunderstanding of the legal standards. If anything, he will get a political pass, not a legal pass. And that might be so, but I want to point out something. I didn't get the video of it, but the other day I saw Bernie Thompson, who's a congressman. And I remember this guy because he subpoenaed me for the January 6th nonsense. He was the head of the January 6th committee. All right. And they asked him a question, and he said, because they jumped all over him about the ICE agent. And what he had said is, we haven't seen every video. We haven't seen all angles, and I will defer until we see it. And let's not pass judgment until we know all the facts. I can't believe a Democrat, let alone one that was running a crooked committee, said that. But that goes to show you that's the system that's going to protect itself. Remember, they're from Congress. Right. They protected Lieutenant Michael Byrd. So whether they like it or not, they're going to protect the ICE agent, because if you don't, that'll open up a huge can of worms for other stuff that they've probably gotten involved with that they don't want out in the public. I'm looking at it from a political standpoint, because in the end, that's what this is. It's all politics. And right. I think that that's what's going to happen with that. I don't know if there's video, if we get happy, but I did watch him get this question, and that's how he answered it. Bernie Thompson, who's as crooked as they come, he had a January 6th committee. This guy subpoenaed me, all right? He subpoenaed me. He subpoenaed many others, and in the end, they didn't get anything. January 6th was what it was, but he was the head of that committee. He said that, and he sounded sane. I've never heard him sound sane. So I'm telling you, I could already read the writing on the wall that it's going to be, they're going to lean towards, they're going to justify him, because you can't justify Michael Byrd and not justify this ICE officer. And this was a lot more different. I mean, that's how I see it, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it'll go through the motions, go through trial, go through all the motions and stuff. But end of the day, once the media dies out, he's going to slowly skate away, and he'll get away with it. Nothing's going to happen to the guy. He's not losing his job or anything like that. So
that's how I see it.
That's about it.
Because they're gonna make it they're gonna make that like an issue, because they have to cover up. It's all politics, But here's the problem, Steve. I have a problem with
smoke and mirrors. They're gonna go through the motion, gonna please the public, and then that's it. Nothing's gonna happen.
This entire thing really goes back to being political. Why? The mayor, Jacob Frey, in the beginning, right? 6 years ago, even with George Floyd. In the beginning, this guy has always fanned the flame of being anti-police, and he encourages the population to go and burn down the police station and get in front of cops' faces. And it's a little different than getting in a federal agent's face. We don't have CCRB for the federal agent. You can complain. It goes to the inspector general. He'll get a call from someone in the White House or whatever, and that thing disappears. You don't hear about it for 5 years, and by then it's too late. So this is what happens. It's been this way forever. But his rhetoric, right? Number one, a sanctuary city should give you what? What are they supposed to do? If they would just follow the law, meaning if you capture someone that has an ICE detainer warrant, you would cooperate with ICE. There is no need to have ICE conducting all kinds of activity in your city if you do this. So that's the number one problem I see. The second problem I see here is that he, once again, is saying that ICE is the enemy, and he's blaming ICE for all of the issues in Minnesota and Minneapolis, right? So he's fanning the flames on both ends. The police chief, you already know, has no idea what he's doing. He's just another chief like the NYPD guys we know. So there's all kinds of politics involved. But again, he's the guy to blame. His city is in a failed state. He's got Somali daycare centers, and he's worried about ICE conducting raids in his city, which they wouldn't if he would just cooperate with ICE with just telling them who's got an ICE detainer warrant. I mean, that's how I see it. I don't know how you see it.
Well, I don't know if you worked in the court section before. I worked in Brooklyn Central Booking. I worked in I know Queens Central Booking. So it's always been like that. New York is a big sanctuary city, and every time we had an inmate or person in custody that had an ICE warrant, right after trial, we would contact ICE, and it was up to them. They wanted to come pick them up or not, and a lot of times they didn't come pick them up. So it was always like that. But for them to just totally ignore federal law, because federal law always trumps state and city law, right? Yeah. So end of the day, if the feds want to come in, they could do whatever they want. right? Because it trumps the law. So, for sanctuary cities to disobey federal law, I think they should just get their federal funding cut.
That could be one of the issues. Eric says again, is a fundamental misunderstanding of the law regarding immigration. There is because there should be communication, cooperation. There always has been, right, until this whole political concept. The politics has just infected everything. And this is Eric. This is very sad. Federal law doesn't trump the state law. That too, but there always was cooperation. So again, that's the issue that's going on with most of these cities. Now, you're starting to see everywhere, Steve, starting with Minnesota, and now they're starting with their whole BS, the rioting and the rioting and the protests. Here's just some of the footage of stuff going on. So, I mean, this is ridiculous. This is from freedomnews.tv. You see what I'm saying? Now, Steve, what do you think of this? Because you've done car stuff. Imagine having cameras near you and people. Now this is everywhere. This is just in Minneapolis right now.
Well, I support peaceful protests. I believe, freedom of speech and stuff like that. Cameras, yeah, the press has the right to film, as long as they're not interfering with their federal duties or their law enforcement duties. It's fine. And they can say all they want in the background. I learned to have tough skin very early in the 6-7. And the neighborhood is always coming out, community is always coming out, supporting like people that are getting arrested and stuff like that. And as long as they don't cause any problems, they don't put their hands on anything or try to stop the vehicles from leaving. I'm okay with it. To be honest with you, I'm okay with it. Because, end of the day, what? You get your feelings hurt? Nothing happens. It's peaceful. Let them do it. I mean, it's a shame, but we're in different times right now. There's so much political corruption. There's so much, I think ICE is going a little bit overboard. I think it's because that they put in that quota system where they have to deport a certain amount of people, where they're actually deporting just anybody they get their hands on.
Which
and,
I don't agree with.
That's causing a lot of problems. Yeah, my family are immigrants. They came over from China, Taiwan early on. In 1974. And, I support immigration. I support, protests and stuff like that. So, seeing the press going around like that, I mean, I don't support them being in the street or in their faces.
I don't mind this part. You see this? I don't mind this because this is what I expect them to do, right? Yeah, it's when they all of a sudden jump in the middle and there's other, if you jump in front of them or try to you think you're part of the act, which that when if they turn around and tell you to stop the car or whatever, I just think they're out there on foot is a lot different than per se when you're, what we saw with the woman in the car, which is a completely different thing because she was actually trying to block the street and that's when they even went over to her, because those guys are doing what I thought they always do, but they apparently, some people think they're part of the act because then I don't know. We have footage too of there's really there are protests. I saw in New York City people getting arrested too. So now because it jumped into this whole thing. This is New York City here. So this is, once again, this is freedomnews.tv. Leah Scootercaster does an excellent job. So here they are, right? People protesting. What is this? 42nd Street. This is Times Square. And you see how people now, you're going to start to draw because they were out there protesting the other night, I believe, on Friday. Friday night, they marched into a hotel in Minneapolis looking for ICE agents that were there. Things, that kind of stuff, Steve, that's the breaking point of a country. You can't be doing that kind of stuff. And here we go. There's people fighting and shoving. Why can't they just pull their ban? Like, I don't know. I don't know what this other guy's doing. He's trying to grab his flag.
Yeah, the whole thing with the flag, putting the flag in somebody's face and stuff like that. You know, if you're gonna protest and you expect, you know, somebody not to, like, I'm talking about the left, right? So if the left protests and expects, you know, law enforcement to allow them to protest and they want to say freedom of speech and stuff like that, and then you have opposition that's doing the same, you shouldn't be getting in the face and getting violent like this. This is unacceptable. You know, it's unacceptable. You know, yeah, you may not, okay, if you don't agree with Trump and stuff like that, oh well, you know, it's freedom of speech. It goes both ways. You know, like, just let them stand there, let them, you know, have their banner and stuff like that. You know, for you to get in the face and get all violent, and this guy's putting the flag in his face and everything, they try to grab the banner away. That's unacceptable. I don't agree with that.
But I don't get what is this guy doing? What is he running down the street? Is he chasing this other guy that was putting a flag on him? Then, like, here, look, I guess this in front of a building, and I guess they're cursing each other out. He's cursing him out with the flag. And then now this is where it gets interesting, because this guy in the orange was the one. And now look, now they finally show up and start to, you know, guys, you got to break this up. This is ridiculous, because this is a protest that doesn't have permits. You need permits to have, and there's a lot. Now it's becoming a large gathering here because it's Times Square. You need a permit to do this kind of stuff, because otherwise it could get ugly real quick. And I don't, you know, it was always like this, protests and stuff, but now they're ramping up the temperature, per se, over this incident. And like I said, it started in Minneapolis, and it's starting to spread in many cities. And now our former co-workers and people we know are dealing with this in the street as we speak.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate, you know, for the gentlemen and women that are, you know, on the job now. They're in a very difficult situation, facing, you know, the political climate that they're in, you know, and stuff like that. And
do they even live there, Steve? I mean, do these people actually live in New York City or live in any of these places?
No, a lot of them are transplants. A lot of them are like imported in. They move here just for the protest. They're professional protesters. You know, a lot of them are professional protesters. You know,
you see this? Look at how many people are doing this.
Yeah.
This is 44th and 5th Avenue.
That's the thing is, I support protest. So, you know, I actually love seeing protests like this. Like, it's peaceful. They're walking down the street. They're not doing anything wrong. I mean, yeah, they're inconveniencing people, but stuff like that. But, you know what I'm saying? I support protests, because I don't know if you know, but, you know, I've been in protests over, you know, COVID and stuff like that from 2020 to 2023. You know, I've been in Black Lives Matter protests. I've been in Asians for Black Lives Matters. I've been in Stop Asian Hate protests and stuff like that. And you know, it was peaceful, but you have agitators, professional agitators in the protest that ruin it, and they turn it violent. They purposely throw stuff at the police. They purposely try to start a fight. They purposely try to instigate stuff, and then, you know, it just becomes something else, you know. But I mean, I support protests and freedom of speech, man. But thing is, when it comes to the other side now, if you have a counter protest going on, you shouldn't be going and engaging them and trying to get violent with them either.
Yeah.
I'm
going to ask producer Jack if he could come up with the video of what I saw on Friday, which were protesters in Minneapolis charging into the hotel that the ICE agents, you know, they're there right now.
That's when it gets out of hand.
Yeah,
so I think those are like the professional agitators that are paid to do that, and they want to cause this uproar. They want to cause this stir and stuff like that, and outrage and everything. And, you know, it just becomes very bad for the movement. You know, so
this is what I'm telling you. I think that they're using, this is when it becomes a political you're a political pawn on this, because this is, you know, this is I believe this is in Minneapolis right here. This is January 9th. So this was the other night when this happened on a Friday. Now these guys are, you know, it looks peaceful, right? They're playing music. You know, they could scream and yell all they want here, right? But you don't have a problem with any of this. What we have a problem with is some of these people decided to go into the hotel. I saw the footage of it. They bum rushed the front of the hotel, and they had security or whoever there trying to hold off a herd of these people. Yeah, see, here they are. This is the hotel here. This is where it starts, I believe, when they try to get into this hotel. Nobody cares what you're doing this kind of stuff. But if you try to bum rush the hotel where the ICE agents are staying, this is an issue. That's what I have a problem with. Like,
absolutely, I totally agree. Once they start, trying to destroy property and putting people's lives and safety in danger, it becomes a big issue. Peace like this stuff is, I totally agree with this kind of stuff. Like, music, signs, you want to chant, that's great. But once it becomes violent, it's not a pretty sight for anybody.
And that's what. And now we're hearing a lot about law enforcement, right? Because people now are saying, well, law enforcement's under scrutiny all over an ICE incident. Not even a police, like it wasn't even cops. The federal agents had an incident, and now this is, to me, Steve. I see this as I thought Democrats for the midterms would try to use the Eric Adams issue with Trump, because remember there was a casino. I mean, there's all kinds of Michigas right there. And now it looks like Democrats are pivoting to the same old playbook. Let's try to disrupt everybody's city with these paid protesters everywhere. Because, you talk to someone in Minneapolis, I've seen them say that these people don't even live there. So who are they?
But the thing is, they're trying to duplicate Trump's first term, right? Where the far left doesn't like Trump, right? And they're trying to get another George Floyd incident, and they're trying to cause chaos again and say, oh, this is all Trump's fault and stuff like that. But I'm saying, like, end of the day, it's all political game. They want to separate it. They want the left, they want the right, they want these two groups, so we start fighting amongst each other, and we don't unite together. So I think we should just put out like differences away and try to sit down at the table and just talk things out. But it's just people want to be sheep, right? They want to follow these crowds. They want to follow the media, and they get low information, and they just get passionate about things. Yeah,
they love the low information people. And I got to say this too, for Mayor Mamdani, he's the mayor of New York City. He's got a lot to say about a lot of different issues, but man, New York City itself had a couple of shootings in the last couple of days, and you're worried about what's going on in Minneapolis, what's going on in Venezuela. Dude, you're the mayor of New York City, man. Worry about the city. Worry about what's going on underneath you. Your police commissioner, your fire department, your sanitation, your own citizens. You're worried about everyone. I never seen, like, what are you worried about other people for? And what's going on in other cities? Worry about your city. You have protests every night right now. I mean, that's another thing I noticed. He commented on something. I think I said something to him in regards on X, literally saying, worry about your own city, man. It's okay to make a comment here and there, but he's like, his ex is like, he's talking about all these different issues, but he doesn't talk about New York City issues. Like, and the one person
he's a member of DSA, right? So Democratic Socialist America. So these are talking points that they he has to talk about. They're talking points that he has to talk about. I mean, they kind of affect New York a little bit because end of the day, we are one of the biggest melting pot cities, right? And anything that happens around the world affects New York because we have people from all around the world, right? So like, let's say Venezuela with, the dictator getting taken down and stuff like that, he has to talk about it because the DSA is forcing him to talk about it, right? But, end of the day, does it really matter? Like we definitely should be worrying about New York City first because you're the mayor. You're not the president. You're not even governor. But you should definitely worry about New York City and our problems here. Worry about the new turnstiles that came out. The new turnstiles are trapping kids inside the turnstiles, separating kids from parents. Like smacking people in the face. worried about the turnstiles, worried about people getting pushed off the platforms, worried about the crime statistics getting shit canned and miscategorized and stuff like that. Worried about the corruption inside internal affairs and NYPD, and stuff like that. Like worried about your free buses, how you still haven't gave that to him to fruition, right? I mean, I did like seeing him signing in free childcare. I think that's one of the things that he did already as his couple of days as mayor. He signed in free childcare, universal childcare. Just worried about the. Yeah, we got a lot of things to fix after Eric Adams, man. So
he promised to. He's doing one of his. I don't know. He's not going to be able to deliver on all those things he promised, but.
Just not because MTA's out of his hands, and Kathy Hochul's not playing ball with him. So, no, it's not going to happen. The only way I see free buses happening is if he creates his own bus lines, like how NYU does. They have buses, free buses for their students and stuff like that. If they create something like that, and the city just pays for it and just tells MTA, "Hey, you're no longer on this bus route," and the city's going to do it itself. That's the only way I could see it happening. But you trying to force MTA to get free buses, not going to happen.
Yeah,
MTA so much step. They need the money.
Yeah, I'm like I said, there's so much there, and I'm now starting to see what I predicted was this guy didn't know how to be the mayor because he didn't know how to be an assemblyman, and everybody's now seeing this play out for itself in New York City. Some of them predict. Is it complete doom and gloom? No, because the city is always going to function. You got Julie Menon now. She's the head of city council. There's other checks and balances and false safes. So before we go saying it's over, it's not over. It's just you want it to change. But 51%.
I'm not gonna listen to the far right news. I'm not gonna listen to the far left news. I'm not gonna judge them on who's around them and stuff like that. I actually I want to give him a chance. I want to hope for the best. I'm hopeful. I'm naive, right? Which is what got me into trouble in the first place, trusting IAB and stuff like that, right? Trusting the job to do the right thing. But I'm gonna give him a chance. Let's see how the first year goes. Let's see who he actually puts into office and helps him out, and let's see how it goes, man. Let's give him a chance.
I agree with you. In the first 12 days, though, I'm going to say he looks like I've said, he's a novice politician. Great salesman, great. But he has the look, he has that aura about him as a politician. He looks good on camera. He talks the part, but his actions are saying otherwise. That's the issue. Always said that about him personally, which is why I said you should have voted for Curtis Lewa. But, I'm getting killed on social media yet again. You have guys like Rich as a Party who are working for Andrew Cuomo coming at me last night, right? Because he's saying Curtis Lewa only had 7%. If I'm Andrew Cuomo and I paid Rich as a Party all that money to get crushed twice, first in the primary and then in the general election, I'd ask for a refund. But I'm not Rich as a Party. He went on to say that I live in my mother's basement. Dude, I live in Florida. I haven't lived with my mother since I was, 20, 19. I don't know. It was a long time ago. We don't have basements in Florida, but we have plenty of cockroaches like yourself and John Catsimatidis and Andrew Cuomo that love to come down here and either they have a second residence or they're invading Florida. Stay up there with all your corruption that you and Andrew Cuomo and everybody else created.
Well, the thing with Cuomo, though. Yeah, I don't think Cuomo ever expected to win, because
he won. Nice game. But
early in the race, he straight off the bat registered to run as an independent, also, so he already knew that he's going to lose as a Democrat straight off the bat. That's why he in early when he's going out getting petitions, he also got petitions to run as an independent because he knew, he's not going to win as a Democrat.
He's going to
run in general election. Only to raise money. That's what it comes down to.
He raised a lot of money. They paid Rich as a Party a lot of money. Who's on there, and you can't respond to him either. So he's a coward like that. He wants to take a shot and then, keep comment on my thing. Only people that know me. great, big, tough guy. Another one like Cuomo, like all the people around Cuomo, big, tough guys. And then when it gets to, they have to, when you respond, they don't want to hear the response. So, I just figured I don't even want to respond to the guy on the internet, but I respond to him here since he's a big, tough guy. He's saying 7% Curtis Sliwa. And by the way, Curtis Sliwa, once again, on the last show I had, Jack and myself, shows you he went to the inauguration. And there's this crazy rumor amongst the, how can I say this? This wing of people that were being influenced or whatever at the time by Bill Ackman and John Katsimatidis, that Curtis Sliwa was working for Mamdani. Curtis Sliwa going to an inauguration means now he's for that mayor. He's been to every inauguration for like 40 years.
Yeah.
I noticed he's not a great mayor.
I think Curtis would have been a great mayor, and Cuomo should have stepped down. Absolutely. After losing the Democratic race, he should have stepped down. And what a shame. What a shame seeing the Republicans tell people to tell Curtis to step down and support Cuomo. Are you effing kidding me? Cuomo was your number one enemy when he was governor, and now you're supporting him to run for mayor as a Democrat? Like, you're a Republican. What are you doing? Support your Republican candidate. I thought that was, after seeing that, I was like, you know what? I have no respect for the Republican Party in New York, and it was just so sad seeing that. I think if Cuomo would have stepped down, Curtis would have had a very good shot. Very good shot.
I agree. I think that I think Curtis would have, if he would have had a real chance, and I don't mean President Trump endorsing Cuomo. First Eric Adams, then Cuomo. That should have get your brain. You should have started thinking, but people don't think other than what people tell them to do, especially Trump or anyone else. It's like, guy, you have to have your own mind. Like, look at this from the outside in. The real outsider is Curtis Sliwa. It was never Andrew Cuomo. It was never Andrew Cuomo. And I hate to read it, but it's people all in.
Cuomo did that to split the votes. It was pure strategy.
That's what they did. They crushed it. They split the vote. They had people not going home. And by the way, that little endorsement at the end energized all of the low information people that voted for Mamdani. Trump said, Cuomo, we're going to go out in droves. That's what you did. New York City hates Donald Trump. I don't know how to say this. They still do. All those people that come in and with the Trump signs, the majority of them live in Long Island or somewhere else to go in front of Trump.
They're not in the city. Yeah, absolutely.
They live in New York City, man. I could have told you that. Like, they're from Staten Island, and nobody lives in New York City. New York City, which has millions of habitants, they're all Democrats. The majority of them, they're liberal, and they love it. So I don't know how I'm even rehashing this. I'm getting agitated, but I'm rehashing it because Cuomo's people now attacking the Curtis Sliwa people again. Here we go again with their nonsense because they're all like with their own agendas. Like the other thing I don't like is this religious zealous nonsense that, Mamdani. I know who you guys are. I can tell who you are and what you're saying. Religion has nothing to do with how Mamdani is going to govern because he does have 30% of the Jewish vote. 30% of people that were Jewish voted for Zohran Mamdani. So why are we still going down this route of Muslim versus Jewish person versus the Catholic?
The voting thing and the representation, you can't really compare the two because, I ran for state assembly in 2020 and, I witnessed there's a lot of corruption in the voting thing too, right? So like the DSA is very powerful in controlling votes because they could actually get all the DSA members all across America, right? And they actually transplant here just to vote on the DSA side, right? You have people that came from out of state. They'll transfer to, NYU as a student or something like that, or Columbia, because they had a lot of young voters, right? They'll transfer in just to vote, and it's they got to look into the voter fraud thing. And Cuomo's votes, I would think that most of them was voter fraud because like he had the nursing homes and he had like all these senior centers and stuff like that helping him. And the senior centers and nursing homes, I'm not gonna say all of them, but a lot of them they control the votes of the seniors because they have the absentee ballots sent directly, in, or they have them bring it in when they get the absentee ballot, and they just fill it out for them. So it's sad what the voting thing has come to. And I think, if Curtis would have spent more time in the nursing homes or in the senior centers and stuff like that, and, talking to these people and playing ball, like, Curtis would have had a good shot. If Cuomo wasn't in the race, and Trump, I'm so disappointed in Trump. It's to the point where it's like, you know what? I hate him more than I like him. I mean, he's doing some great things, right? But I'm just so sad with him supporting Cuomo over Curtis Stewart. I mean, like, it was just so bad. It was just so sad seeing that. And then, the whole thing with everything else, like, he's just like selling out. Him partying Eric Adams, that was just
the worst.
That did it for me. That did it for me. Like, him just giving him a free pass and getting rid of the federal charges and all of those stuff. That just totally turned me off.
Roger Stone over the weekend posted something about Eric Adams. He wants his U.S. ambassadorship, which is outrageous after thinking what that guy did. But it's out there. I told you that he was going for that, and that's what he's trying to go. Hunter NY1 said, "Let's be honest, Sal. Many Jews hate Israel and are not so religious. Mostly progressive liberal beliefs." I can understand that there's some that'll say that, but I still say he's governing from a position of what's best for the population. He shouldn't be governing from a position of religious ideology. And I still think there are people trying to push that nonsense off. Look, he did say he was going to, what was that? He didn't want he was going after the neighborhoods and hiking taxes on just the neighborhoods that were predominantly Caucasian. So I don't know if that's true or not. That was a crazy policy put out there. These are things that can be discussed. But again, to say, it's strictly about religion and all these religious zealots come out and make it. No, that's why I'm saying give the guy. I'm giving him, I said at least 3 months. I know the first 12 days are very rocky right now from Montana, the way he's running things. So, but we all told you that it was going to be like that. He's a novice politician. So now you got to live with the way it is. And look, I don't know, these Cuomo people are still lingering around. WABC, which is always broadcasting Cuomo now, this was their thing. John Katz is best friends with those guys. So if you want to listen to that garbage, go ahead. But it's on you.
I'm gonna give him down more time than 3 months. I'm gonna give him a year. I think it's gonna take him like, maybe first quarter, second quarter to get everybody in that he needs to get in, right, to help him out with his objectives and stuff like that. And then the rest of the year to see how it plays out. And I was thinking, I mean, worst comes to worst, I would think that it would be another De Blasio term, right?
Oh God.
Worst comes to worst. Worst comes to worst.
You don't want that guy.
You definitely don't want to.
He was corrupt.
Yeah, I mean, but let's see. Hopefully, since he comes from money already, like let's hopefully, he has a little more integrity than De Blasio. And I'm gonna give him a year. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Let's not into the new year negative. Let's try to like stay positive about things. I understand what people are saying about him. I understand how people feel about him. But I'm gonna be hopeful, man. I'm gonna be hopeful because I still live here. I still live here. I don't live in Florida like you. I still live here, so I'm gonna be hopeful, man. I'm hopeful. Hopefully, I'm not doomed. So we'll see.
Yeah, a couple comments here. PBE 777 said Curtis Sliwa was the best candidate for mayor, but he didn't run a serious competitive campaign. TV and print ads, public appearances at the usual stomps. Yeah. There's a lot going on with that. I thought for what he had, like he didn't have any real help. He did the best he could by himself. But obviously, when you have, where was John Katz? John Katz, Mr. Republican. You didn't help out. He was pushing for Eric Adams and then Andrew Cuomo. You wanted him to drop out. Got rid of him.
He's worried about his pockets. He's worried about his pockets.
He's all about the city of yes. That's what it was. And it doesn't matter who's in charge. He's going to get a piece of the pie because he's a billionaire. But people still.
You know what the problem was Curtis? I don't think it's a problem. But the problem politically with Curtis is he has too much integrity. He has too much integrity. You know, he's a man of his word, right? He's consistent with what he stands for. He's consistent with what he says and stuff like that. And that's a problem with all these people with money. That's a problem with, you know, the NYPD. They know they're going to get, like, you know, drained out, you know, and stuff like that. And all these people with money with the city of yes and the casinos and all this other stuff, they're all against Curtis Sewa because they know if he comes into office, all that stuff is down the toilet. And they're going to lose a lot of money. And that's why they put their money behind Como, because Como, you know, could be bought. And Curtis couldn't.
He was bought all right over and over again as the governor, too. So, you know, and PBE 77 said, elections are different from governing. Elections are about emotions. I voted for Sliwa. I don't vote emotionally. That's the big problem. Take your emotions out of a lot of things, like what's going on with this ICE agent, and stick to facts. You realize, yeah, he's justified. Yeah, it's indemnified. We may not like the actions. I didn't like his tactics. He's still going to get indemnified. This guy, oh, they're playing on your emotions. Cuomo, Mamdani, Adams, 3-card Mamdani. Oh, Curtis sounds the best. He seems the best, but we're going to vote on Mamdani. I like the way he looks. I'm going to vote for him.
That's politics, right? It's always been like that since ancient Rome times, right? Like Caesar gave him the Colosseum and like please the crowd. You win the crowd, you win your seat. You know, like Caesar knew that back in the days in ancient Rome. Politics haven't changed. It's always been like that. They play on your emotions, on low information people, and you know, people that you and me that are educated that are able to keep the emotions aside and be like, look, let's get down to it. What does this guy really represent? What has he done in office? We've seen what Como has done already. So all the stuff that he's saying doesn't mean anything because we've seen your actions.
We've seen it. We've seen this.
People have, you know, short-term memory and they just forget about it. They just see what's happening now. They play off the emotions now and stuff. And, you know, but thing is, you know, Mamdani was really good at that, right? His social media campaign was aces. I seen his videos on TikTok and I'm like, yo, this is catchy. I like this guy. You know, like his smile was catchy. He understood. Keep smiling, no matter what people are saying about you, bad thing, good things. Just keep a smile on and stuff like that. And all people see, he plays a psychological game more. You know, like people see a smile, they think, oh, this guy's a nice guy. Automatically they see you smile, they think he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. He brings good feelings. He brings happiness, right, and stuff like that. And you know, Curtis, he tried the TikTok thing. He tried to go on social media and stuff, but he needed better people. He needed he needs to be on there more. That's what the problem was, you know. And I think if he would have played it out more, he would have got more people because like he won over some of the young people, you know. Some people like they kept on glazing him, but he was winning them over. You know what I mean? Like, he was winning them over.
There's not enough Republicans in New York City. That's the bottom line. And when you really look at it, you know, that's the end. That's really the end game. You know, it's like 7-1 Democrat to Republican. So I don't think you'll ever see a Republican mayor, at least for like a long time in New York City. Yeah. It's only going to be Democrat or maybe an independent like Bloomberg again. But Republicans are done in New York City. You could thank guys like John Catsimatidis, who should put his money where his mouth is, and then maybe you have a chance. But you need someone with a lot of money to back a Republican.
Yeah. Fox is saying they're still trying to put a casino in Koyana, and I think they're going to get it. I think they can get it because they already put the casino here in Flushing. I mean, I protested against that and stuff like that, and the politicians all voted yes. Like, you know, it's we got to vote these people out. We got to vote them out. You know, all these politicians that are in office right now, they're selling us out, and we got to vote them out. It benefits both sides, left and right. We got to vote them out. If that happens though, in Coney Island, that would be something. They get the fourth casino, but. You know, Steve, you know, we're here with Stephen Lee. He's a former NYPD sergeant. You know, I've been talking about this IAB, right? We're talking about NYPD internal. Boy. There we go.
I got about 30 minutes.
Here we go.
We got 30 minutes left. So group one, as you know, I mean, they investigated you. You were there. You know these buffoons there. Very recently, Richard S. Taylor, the deputy chief of community affairs, who, by the way, got promoted by rocket fuel in the NYPD, When he was a lieutenant, he worked in the 61st precinct. I would hear him come over the radio as the ICO, right? From that moment on, where Winston Faison, who was a deputy inspector and the CO of the 6-1 at that time, by the time Faison reaches deputy chief, Richie Taylor is already a deputy chief. Just to show you who's got the most pull in the NYPD. He's like the Teflon Don. Recently, we found out that Richie Taylor wasn't, I don't know, was he working? Is he not working? Is he home? Is he not? Look, we don't know what he's doing. He's driving all over the place. So the excuse was he took his unmarked car, and Mark Stewart at the time was deputy commissioner of public safety. He gave him permission for that. But what we learned is he wasn't signing in. There's no 28 slips, which is the when you're absent, you got to fill out a form to let them know where you're at. He never filled out any of this stuff. Some of the time he's out of the country, yet he still shows up as present. So none of his time was taken. Obviously, that's an issue, Steve. So he says at a GO50.
I know Taylor.
Now you know him, right? You were working around this.
I worked with, early in my career. I met him early in my career. Like we have the same amount of time on. He was in a 7-1 and I was in a 6-7, and we shared the same radio frequencies and stuff. And in the very beginning, I'm gonna tell you a secret. He wasn't even really Jewish. He became Jewish when he came on a job, just to get the weekends off. That was the big joke about, when we first met, we would see him at CRV and stuff like that, critical response and stuff. And that was the big joke, is like, man, you're Jewish because you want the weekends off. Like that's the whole big thing. It was a big joke. And then it's just amazing to see how far he took it. He saw that it worked for him, and it's just crazy, man. It was just crazy.
He's definitely, he's so many stories with him. He showed up to an election in Coney Island and Sheepshead Bay, and he had his gun on him, but he was, I don't know, working, not working. And they reported him. They called 311. They said, we got a guy with a gun here, which you absolutely can't do. It's a felony to do that. He only got 10 days taken for that. He should have been terminated for that.
He got promoted off the promotional exams because he would take the test on alternate days because of his religious observance. And then he get all the answers. Back then, let's be real about it. Back then, we all knew that people that took the test on Saturday instead of Friday, they already had the answers from the keys and stuff, and people posting on Durant, right? And they already got their answers and stuff like that. So that's how he passed most of his promotional exams. It's not because he's a smart guy or whatever, stuff like that. I mean, he's smart for playing, the religious card and stuff like that. But
here's the thing, Steve. So he was interrogated, what we call a GO15, as you know, in the NYPD, by Group 1. And in this GO15, in this interrogation, he said that he was allowed to work from home. He doesn't, of course, we don't know who the hell gave him this permission. Now, this is Group 1. As you know, the CO of Group 1 was someone that was handpicked by the Chief of Internal Affairs, now Thompson, who was handpicked by the soccer mom, a.k.a., Jessica Tish. Her real name's the soccer mom to all of us. So the soccer mom put Duat Fikru there as the Group 1 CO, who's notorious on the job. He's in IAB, out of IAB, and that's because Miguel Iglesias had to be taken out because he was involved in covering up EEOs, covering up Consa Frito stuff, all kinds of mishigas. But Fikru, at the same time, Steve, there's this Christmas tree in their office where they have their cubicle, as you know, right behind the door was this Christmas tree, and it's like a target list of people that they gotten in trouble or they already terminated them. So this has been going on since under Fikru. You have to think of all those investigations, Steve, and then they have this Christmas tree on top of they're covering up for Richie Taylor's. Obviously, there's no movement.
I wonder if I was on top of the Christmas tree, because let me tell you about so let me bring this up, right? We talked about. I called you, what was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Or the day before yesterday, just before. I think I called you the day before yesterday or something like that about coming on to the show, right? Let me tell you about the integrity of internal affairs, right? how the character is. I called you the day before yesterday. Yesterday, I was in Long Island in Nassau County, right? I was with my son, my wife. We were at a play center, right, in Westbury. And when I go there almost every weekend. I never see anyone from internal affairs there. Never. I maybe seen one or two people that worked in other precincts, and then they when they see me, they don't talk to me. They don't recognize me, whatever. Because my parents changed. I shaved for the show, right? So yesterday I had a mustache that came down here and a beard, right? And I had my glasses on. Let me show you my meta glasses, right? I had these thick ass black glasses on and a beard and a mustache, right?
Yeah.
My close friends, when they see me in the street, they don't even recognize me. They'll pass by me and they'll be like, "Oh shit, Steve, I didn't know that was you." Right? You changed, you got skinny. What happened? You know, what stuff like that, how you been, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you what happened. I'm walking in there with my son. I see this guy from Group 1, right? They used to drive Resnick. I see him from Group 1. He immediately turns towards my direction. He knew I was coming. He immediately turns towards my direction, right? And he goes, "Oh, Steve, oh, so how you been? Oh, give me a hug." You know, I try to be polite. I give him my hand, shake my hand. He's like, "No, come on in, give me a hug, blah, blah." I'm like, "Nah, man, let's not act too friendly." You know what I mean? You fuck me over, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to talk. "Oh, but how you been? What have you been up to?" Trying to get information from you, right? Not the normal reaction when I see other people I know there, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you come here too. Oh, where's your son? Who's your son? Oh, yeah, my kid is over here." You know, we talk about kids because it's a kid's place, right? Instead, he goes, "Oh, how you been? Oh, come here, give me a hug, blah, 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 blah." All this other stuff. My wife was like, "Who the fuck is this guy acting all friendly to? I never heard of this guy," right? I tell him, whatever, kick the rocks, right? I walk away from him. He immediately leaves. Doesn't grab his kid or anything. There's no kid to grab. He immediately walks off and leaves. This kid doesn't even live in Long Island. He lives in the Bronx. What are you doing in Long Island at a play center? And where the hell is your kid? And why do you leave immediately? If it was a genuine, encounter, you would have been still standing there watching your kid, right? Watching them play and stuff like that. But you immediately disappear right after there's a failed encounter.
This is
like, it's just like they just think they're so smart and they're just so stupid the way they do things. It's just so obvious. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? You know what I mean? Like, I'm getting so emotional about this because it just pisses me the fuck off. It insults my intelligence. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, why are you trying to bump? We call it a bump, right? So when undercover tries to engage with an officer or something like that. First of all, I'm not even on the job. You're not allowed to investigate me. I'm not a cop anymore. I'm a citizen now, right? I'm a civilian. You know what I'm saying? You can't come and investigate me. You only go and investigate other cops and stuff like that. Second of all, who authorizes shit? Because if you're out here, that means you have a ghost unit, you have a supervisor on scene, you have a hospital car, you have tech unit and stuff like that. You have all this whole team of people. And third of all, how'd you know I was there? I mean, you had to run my license plate, you had to run my credit card to see where I'm at, right? And you have to know you have to locate me and all this other stuff. You're wasting all this money for what? So to find out information on what me and Sal are talking about and what the hell is going on, what we up to? It's a waste of fucking money. That's the integrity of fucking internal affairs. They're so corrupt. They are more corrupt than the cops I arrested. And the cops I arrested were doing human trafficking, robbing drug dealers, prostitution. They were doing gangster stuff. And internal affairs, the little time that I spent in internal affairs, I realized they are worse than the cops in the street. The cops that are corrupt. I'm not talking about the 98% of the good cops that are just doing their job, trying to get home and keep people safe and stuff like that. They're doing their thing, right? Shout out to those guys. Please stay safe out there. With the climate out there, my heart goes out to you guys, right? But internal affairs and these corrupt cops are in the street that know the inner circle, like they're part of Eric Adams' crew that you've seen. The things that they get away with, Ed Caban and stuff like that. And I found out Ed Caban is actually friends with the cops I arrested, and that's why he fired me so fast, right? Because I arrested his friends. And the same corruption that his brother was doing with the security thing was the same playbook that the cops I arrested was doing, right? So you know where that came from. But the thing is, internal affairs, they are just the worst of the worst. If you want to get rid of corruption, you go internal affairs first. You know, that's why I don't support policing themselves. They just make it so bad. They make cops look so bad. They know about all the corruption. And if you notice, Sal, any big police takedown in NYPD or whatever, it's always done by the feds.
Yeah, it's ever done by internal affairs because they corrupt. Look, I had that stupid unit. What's his name? Orenstein. This slimy little sergeant and his friend. They criminal. So they can't even define what criminal association is. They put that I was on narcotics, then admit I was never on narcotics, but you made an administrative subpoena. I mean, they got a ton of issues to answer for.
What happened to you? It happened to me too. There's another Stephen Lee, right?
There is Stephen Lee. Yeah, L.I. Yes.
Right. His last name is spelled L.I. My last name is spelled L.E.E. He was a lieutenant. I was a sergeant. Different rank, different last names, right? He was in internal affairs also. I was in internal affairs also. You know this guy that yesterday that I bumped into go? When I tell him, oh, you guys sent me to prison and all this other stuff, whatever. He goes, yeah, but that was the feds, right? No, jerk off. That was you guys, right? Because the feds never investigated me. I don't have a case with the feds. The only case that the feds have is against the other Stephen Lee. So that obviously shows me and tells me that you guys thought I was that other Stephen Lee. That's why you're mistaking the feds going after me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the intelligence level of these people in internal affairs. They're bad investigators, right? They all get the detective shield because they're screwing over cops and they're playing the Chiefs games and they're being the attack dogs and stuff like that. And that's the only reason why they get promoted and get their gold shields and get their their first grade, second grade. I seen detectives in there that are rookies under 5 years get the gold shield, and then 8 months into it, get second grade. 8 months into it, get second grade. How crazy is that?
Well, we have one guy made 8 ranks all the way to deputy mayor, and they should have been terminated, and that's a whole nother story. But I mean, I could see that they, think that they did things like this. For me, though, getting back, you mentioned Group 1 as unbelievably like bumping into you somehow, but Group 1 had this Christmas tree. What are your thoughts on the Christmas tree and the non-invested? Like, they're trying to just basically forget that Richie Taylor is under investigation. All of this doesn't make sense. And he terminated a lieutenant and they went after the wife and terminated both. That was the soccer mom, because they were trying to get information from them to then hand to the Nassau prosecutors, because arson. Remember the arson at the house that may not have been done by the lieutenant. But why do you run in front of the actual investigation to try to, interrogate the lieutenant and the wife? Because you're going to use that against them. And then even though they can't use it against, that's why there's a hearing for that. Basically they're trying to say, hey, here's the information, not letting the investigators do their job. But what's your whole take on this? Because I can't wrap my head around how bad Group 1 is, how bad it is.
Oh, Group 1 is terrible. First of all, let me answer Fox's question. Yes, they sent me to prison, right? So there was a club incident, right? And, my female friend got sexually assaulted by somebody. I broke up the fight. I told security. The boyfriend ended up beating the guy. 2 weeks prior, I foiled internal affairs. And then 2 weeks later, I get arrested for acting in concert, right? I get found guilty of attempted assault for breaking up the fight. I get attempted assault, right? They sent me to Rikers for 6 months. First of all, they try to put felony charges on me, right? And then I get fired before my trial even started. I got fired, right? And I lost my 18-year pension. I got approved for line of duty by the medical board, and the pension board goes, sorry, you got fired before your application came to our desk. So we don't have jurisdiction over you no longer. We can't approve this. We can't vote on this. So I got screwed over that way. The other thing I want to talk about with the Group 1 thing, they're just terrible, bro. They're terrible. They want to. The reason why they fired the lieutenant and the wife, I think, is because some chief was like, go after them, get them, And that Christmas tree, I'm pretty sure aren't even real like bad cops that are like, in criminal investigations or like that they got or arrested. They're probably celebrating people that they just didn't like, and then they got them, and it's just like, we got you. I seen that kind of behavior though in internal affairs when they're going after Scott Monroe, his son. I seen the lieutenant laughing and like like celebrating that they got something on him and stuff, and I'm like, what this guy do? Like, oh, this guy didn't cooperate at GO. He was being an asshole at the GO. And it's like, that's his fucking job. He's a delegate. To be an asshole at the GO, that's his job. You know what I'm saying? He's a union delegate. That's his job, to be an asshole at the GO. And you're going after his son because he was an asshole at the GO. He didn't want to cooperate at the GO. Come on, man. That's the kind of mentality that internal affairs has. They're not there to really stop corruption. They're nothing but smoke and mirrors. That's a big saying in internal affairs. That the good. I'm not saying all entire internal affairs is bad, right? But the boys and girls that are really in there just to get what they want, they play along with the chiefs and stuff like that, right? They're the ones that are controlling internal affairs. They control the investigation because they go along with the higher ups, what they want. I seen chiefs call and go, hey, I want you to go after this guy. There was the sergeant in Midtown. He was in charge of the Broadway shows, right? Like doing security for the Broadway shows and stuff like that. It's kind of like a downtown initiative type of thing, right? And I guess he didn't hook up the chief with free tickets for the Broadway shows or whatever. The chief calls and goes, I want you to test this guy. So we send out an undercover, right? And the undercover goes in and talks to the manager at the Broadway show and say, I'm looking for jobs or whatever. See if he'll refer her to, the officer, right? The sergeant. No. Sergeant doesn't even come up, right? Test failed, right? The guy passed the test, flying colors. Calls the chief up. Hey, chief, we tested him. He passed the test, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Go back and test him. We had to test him 3 times. And you know what they got him on? Memo book entries. The guy was like, fuck this, I'm retired. And he had over 20-something years. This is a veteran. This is how you lose good cops and veterans that could teach, young cops how to be real cops, right? And you pushed him off the job because some chief's feelings got hurt. He didn't get hooked up with Broadway show tickets. You know what I'm saying? This is what internal affairs is there for. That's their job. It's a horse and pony show. It's nothing but smoke and mirrors. All the good cops in internal affairs, they all say it. This is bullshit. It's all smoke and mirrors. We can't really do our job. We can't investigate all these people because they're all hooked up.
That's the reality of it. Shout out the one and only Frank Serpico who's watching us live right now. Shout out to you. That is the most honest guy that ever wore a uniform and literally paid the ultimate price for it. Shout out to Frank. So one day, hopefully I could have Frank on. He's a very busy guy in his later stage of life after everything experienced in the New York State Police Department that seems to have gone backwards from his time, which up top. It's now the guys on top that are super corrupt. But there's one last thing I want, before I show you this video, I want to show you. When it comes to, you were mentioning this whole, does internal affairs do an end around on warrantless searches? How to get around looking at your phone?
So there's a special program that NYPD has, right? And I forgot what it's called, but only a handful of people have logins for it. Not that many people know about it, right? It's only people that are really close with, like, the chiefs and stuff like that get logins for it. It's a third-party company, right? So the workaround is like the LPR readers, the license plate readers, right? Where it's like they work around it where they could run your plate, they get information on your plate and stuff like that. And the big issue with that, remember when we got the training when it first came out, was that it's a third-party company. And since a third-party company or private people, they could get information without a warrant. And then since NYPD pays that third-party company, they could get that information from that person because technically they didn't go out and investigate it and obtain it. Therefore, it's not fruits of the poisonous tree. They just pay for it, right? So this third-party company gathers information on people, right? Where they could just punch in your phone number and your phone number it comes out like a web, right? Your phone number comes out, and then it's like who you call, who they call, and all this other stuff. It shows everything about you. So all I do is like punch in Sal's phone number, and they'll see, okay, person's of interest. Who is he connected to? Person of interest. I'm pretty sure they plugged in your number, right? And boom, my number popped up, and they're like, wait a second, we know this guy. We know where he is. Run his plate. Boom, plate comes up. All the cameras in the city, they're all running 24/7. We know all the traffic cameras are running 24/7. Doesn't matter if it flashes and takes a picture of your license plate. It's running 24/7. So every time you pass one of those cameras, it's on the database. So when you run your name and DOS light, that's why you can see all these like last known location. You see the person crossing over the bridge or going whatever. So I'm pretty sure they saw me, going into Long Island, whatever. I'm past a couple of traffic lights. It's all connected. And then your credit card information, all that stuff comes up and everything, because they don't need a warrant for it. Third-party companies running all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And then they sell it to the NYPD. That's how they get around it with the no warrant. Because it's like, technically, I'm not going out to get it. Somebody else already got it for me. And they're giving me the information. That's the thing.
That's crazy. That's an end around. One question here for you. Sergeant Lee, who was your lawyer? Did you do a bench trial? Also, what's the name for the third-party program? I want to know this one, too. He's got to, we'll try to find out the name of the program. But
I told ProPublica once the name of the third-party program, but I don't remember. It's been so long, I don't remember it. And I had to end up going with a public defender because the lawyer I hired was in bed with the DA, and it went bad, and then like mid-trial, I had to go with a public defender, and yeah, I had a bench trial, but these people lied on the stand, man. There was video. There's video of it, Sal, and in the video you see, I'm not doing anything.
Well, right? They have a habit of doing that stuff. If they want to get rid of you, you just said it. I mean, it was basically shadowing you yesterday, But you mentioned the video, so before you go now, I'm gonna play this video. This happened on Sheffield Avenue and New Lots, infamous in the 75th precinct.
Oh, wow. Oh.
You see this?
Yeah.
Boom. Nice takedown.
Great takedown. Yeah, great takedown.
This is a perfect executed attempt at arrest. Look, I see them. If you hear this, he's saying, I'm not resisting. He's doing everything to resist. And then
massively resisting, yeah.
Massively resisting. And now the other cop, look, he's calling the radio. He calls this in, and he's doing the right thing. He's standing there. I'd rather him circle around them, because as you're going to see now, look, the body camera came off because they're trying to handcuff this guy. And this officer there, you see how they're starting to come over. He should start rolling around and saying, go back, stand back 20 feet, because you're going to see this.
What's up with this lady walking up right behind him?
He doesn't see her until he just. So my only thing here was that one officer should have always kept going around in a circle to push the other one back. What do you think about that video? Because that looks like
a cop. Bad tactics on a cop. My hands would have been out. Like get back, give him voice commands. He's just standing there with his hands in his pocket, hands on his waist. Very bad tactics. He didn't even notice the lady coming from behind him. It could have been a guy coming, grabbing his gun. He couldn't, it was bad tactics on a guy. Kudos to the two cops that are wrestling with the perp.
The two cops were excellent, Steve. That other cop, I agree. Like, dude, get your hands out. That kick in the head.
Now, not to play devil's advocate again, right? But here's my advice to people who are the person that was on the ground getting arrested, right? Here's my advice to you. Even though you feel that you're in the right, and let's say you are in the right, don't fight with the cops in the street. You're not going to win that battle. You're never going to win that battle. Never. It makes you look bad when you're like, I didn't do anything, and you refuse to put your hands behind your back, because I understand you don't want to go to jail, right? I understand that. I've been there now, right? I understand it. But I also put my hands behind my back, and I went along with it, and you fight it in court. Everything's on body cam now, you know, so it's like everything's recorded. You know, if you didn't do anything, you truly didn't do anything, don't fight in the street. You know what I'm saying? Hire a lawyer like Eric Sanders or something like that and fight it in court, you know, but don't ever fight in the street because that just adds additional charges now. Sometimes they don't even know what they're arresting you for. And sometimes they don't even have reason to arrest you. They just want you to put your hands behind your back and put you in handcuffs to remove you from the situation, right? But then once you start resisting, now they got a reason. Now it becomes disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, and, you know, assaulting an officer or whatever. You know, all those three charges always goes together, right? And then you give them a reason to arrest you. So always comply, and fight in court, please. It will turn bad. It always turns bad. You're not going to win that battle. 1,000%. Never going to win that battle.
Hunter NY1 says you won't be smiling at Rikers Island. That's the best way to say it. Steve, it's been a great time with you on the show. I might have to bring you on when we're going to be discussing internal affairs in the future for many other fiascos they're involved in. But where could people either see you online or your website? Give everybody your socials.
Yeah, Steve for New York. I'm also at System Unfiltered on YouTube. You know, I had a great conversation. Thank you for Frank for coming in, stopping in. You know, me and Frank had conversations before, and just to mention, with Frank, we had conversations on corruption back in his day and corruption back in my day, and the things that they done to me and things that they done to him. And he said it's the exact same playbook. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed.
No, he's right.
The game is the same. The plays are different.
I hope that Frank on someday, just so there's so many things I could ask him about things, especially with the whole Eddie Caban and all that stuff that went on. Absolutely. Steve, it was great to have you on. I wish you nothing but the best in the future, and you'll be hearing from us soon because I'm sure there'll be another internal affairs incident in the near future.
Absolutely. Every day.
God bless. There you have it, folks. Stephen Lee. He's a good guy. You know, he went through a lot. People have their own opinions, but hey, people have their own opinions about me also, right? I let anyone, I let the right people come on here and they can give their take. You know, that's how I am. But without any further ado, let's introduce this take.
Drum roll. Thank you to the audience. Yeah, thank you to Stephen for coming on as well. One of the craziest things that now Mayor Zoran Mamdani did over the weekend is he introduced his new bathroom proposal, which would create $4 million worth of public bathrooms in New York City. So just to kind of keep a tally here about everything that's transpired since he took over as mayor 11 days ago now. He had a woman killed by ICE in Minnesota, which he briefly spoke out about. Nicolas Maduro was captured in Caracas, which he said he called President Trump about, disagreed with him on, but didn't really say anything that he did or was going to do to combat it. And now he's rolling out new public bathrooms, which are going to take years to build and are probably only going to help a person or two having a bathroom emergency. Also, these bathrooms are going to end up being taken over by vagrants, homeless people, druggies. So they're hardly going to serve the purpose of being public bathrooms that allow people to have a sense of relief if they have an emergency on the road.
I could just tell you in his first 12 days, it's been a rocky 12 days. I know people go, oh, I'm not even being harsh on the guy. Like I was telling Steve, I already see a lot that could go wrong as far as the way he's running things. Remember, great sales guy, great look, great pitch. His actions speak of something completely different. But I warn people about that. And again, I'm seeing a lot of these Cuomo people coming out of woodwork again. Guys, this guy Mamdani wins no matter who runs against him. That's what people want in New York City. You might be regretting that now, but it's too late. It is what it is. That's how New York City rolls. That's how I say. But of course, you were going to deal with the stuff that he's doing. So what else you got on tap, Jack? I know you want to mention also, if you want to chime in on the original topic, which was there's protests all over the country right now over this one incident.
Yeah, the biggest thing regarding the protests that took place over the weekend is that it seems like a lot of the protesters forgot why they were protesting problematically. So instead of talking about ICE agents or maybe minimizing the number of things that people are being deported for, which would actually be a pretty reasonable request when you look at the situation objectively, because too many people are being deported and we need low-wage workers to be able to remain in the United States to perform the responsibilities of some of these jobs. But the protesters are screaming about Donald Trump, how he needs to be taken out of the White House. The election was stolen. Local law enforcement agencies are racist, even though the woman who was shot was white, right? So they're not actually protesting for a cause anymore. And that's probably the biggest issue at hand, because what is the end goal of a protest? The end goal of a protest is to create change that is related to what the cause of the protest is. But instead of protesting about ICE agents and deportations, the protesters have gotten lost in the sauce, and now they're taking out their anger and frustration about everything else, which is not solving anything.
No, I agree. It is what, look, I just hope that this doesn't, this seems to be the midterm weapon for the Democrats. I just hope they back off and just try to do this civilly. You could kind of almost win this on regular political arguments. We don't have to go run around in the street and try to beat up cops and federal agents and go inside the hotels. You can peacefully protest. Don't charge the hotel. Don't go against the security. I wish we had the Fisor. I was like, wow, they were actually doing this again. But, these people are afraid to do that, man. That's all I can say.
Let's be honest. These are people who are just mad about the political climate that we're living in right now, and they were going to get upset about anything that took place, whether it be someone getting shot and killed, a comment that was made about the president. These are individuals who were looking to get mad and looking to protest, even if it was over something that took place in another city or state that didn't impact or affect them at all. Also, in New York City, deportations are continuing at the same pace over the same offenses that they were being carried out with under Eric Adams. So don't sit here and say, oh, things are changing under Mr. Mamdani, because the reality is that they're not. It's just a continuation of the status quo. And to that extent, you really have no right to get out on the street and cause mass destruction the way that the protesters are, because you're not creating any tangible solutions for the problems you're complaining about. That's the stem and the root of the issue at hand here. And until protesters actually care about creating change, it's going to be more of the same. We are 6 years almost after George Floyd's death. Yet protests today look exactly the same as they looked in 2020. How problematic is that?
Yeah. And, Michael M. agrees. I agree, Jack. ICE needs to dial back their operations, go after the violent criminals. I second that. I don't know what they're doing. Again, I don't know how they're being run. I'm telling you, tactically, it is horrendous what they're doing. But, again, he'll be indemnified and also be found justified. That's the end result of that. But, again, ICE needs to rethink how they're doing their operations. Now, two things, obviously, I know you wanted to talk about. One was John Catsimatidis now is going to hire Andrew Cuomo. I know you got a lot to say about this, so I said a little bit, but I'm going to give you
Yeah, so WABC from here on out will stand for We Always Broadcast Con Men, right? Because look at all of the con men who are now occupying the airwaves of WABC. You have the chief con men, it's like, remember during the election cycle when Curtis Lewa kept referring to Andrew Cuomo and Zoran Mamdani as the architect and the apprentice? It's the same dynamic here. You have John Catsimatidis, who's the architect of propaganda, who's hiring all his little minions to propagate these very biased messages. And then you have Mr. Clean with his Botox injections in the morning saying whatever Catsimatidis tells him to say. You have Anthony Weiner, and now the worst person that you could possibly hire for your station, you have Andrew Cuomo, because now you lose all credibility as being a watchdog agency. If Andrew Cuomo was like some other politicians who go on these shows after having lost an election and have the ability to be very biased, but also unbiased when they need to be in terms of evaluating how politicians are doing, that's fine. But Andrew Cuomo does not have an unbiased bone in his body. He's failed every single test this Catsimatidis has given him on the airways to this point, has done a terrible job with David Patterson. He's shown an inability to be unbiased when he's evaluating Mamdani. And now, although he's not in office, he's going to be having another platform to put up all these crazy messages about how he should have been mayor, how he did a great job as governor. And you're allowing him to control the narrative once again. this time he's going to have a microphone in front of his mouth, and it's totally ridiculous and screwed up. Shame on you, John. Horrible decision.
Fox wants to vomit. Andrew Cole. Andrew Cole. Listen, you heard what I said with Steve. I think me and you said it on here that he was going to go work for him, and it's exactly what happened. Before we end the show, Jack, a certain university won the game. I said they were going to win, right? The U is now going to play the college football championship at Hard Rock Stadium, which is in Miami. They're the home team for the game. So shout out to the Hurricanes, the U.
Yeah, that was another incredible win by the Hurricanes over Ole Miss. I feel like Ohio State was kind of the toughest test that they're probably going to be facing throughout the entire college football playoff. I know people are going to want to crucify me for saying that because Indiana beat Ohio State, but the Buckeyes were a really tough game to play. Really good defense, solid offense as well. And the Hurricanes passed it with flying colors, not just winning, but winning by 2 scores. And then they go and take care of Ole Miss pretty easily. I still think that this is where kind of the Cinderella story comes to an end and Indiana beats them in the national championship game because they have the Heisman Trophy winner in Fernando Mendoza and the best head coach in the game in Kurt Cignetti. And I'm not betting against either of those two guys. Not this year when it feels like they're destined to have an undefeated season.
Yeah, we big on Miami. So I think that'll do it for this show. Thank you all for being here. Like, share, and subscribe on Rumble. Hit the Rumble button, hit the like button on X. Please like and share this out, especially to those in that loan promotion. Crowd. Thank you all for being in. By the way, WABC, the one guy that's very good over there, Roger Stone. He's not a con man. He's working there, but he works, and he has the shows on different days. But, a lot could be said about the entire station as a whole, especially what's going on there. But with that being said, I will see you on Thursday at 11:05 a.m. Thursday at 11:05. It was only a special time today because I had something to do. So without any further ado, do not be a dark, sick person like you're about to. And I'm signing off. Both of us are signing off from South Florida, which is a sunny place for shady people.
What I'm asking New Yorkers for is to look back at all the things I've done as a deputy commissioner for operations, as assistant commissioner, and my time as a not only as a New Yorker but as a police officer. I get stuff done.
Listen, there was a book that came out that Jasmine Ray wrote, and in the Daily News today, it stated that there was a sexual action that happened in Borough Hall. She reported in that book, and it wasn't. You're a dark, sick person, man. You know that? You're a dark, sick person. Your name was on the byline. And there's some of you that have been covering me. You guys could part. Let me do this. Y'all could depart. Y'all could depart. Some of you have been covering me for 3.5 years. Some of you are so sick and dark, and you're the leader of that. You're one of the most dark writers that I've ever seen in this city. And your personal sick vendetta and the sickness of how you think of over-sexualizing a black man, that in the book is stated that there was a sexual action in Borough Hall. That was never in the book. But that's typical of the sickness and the darkness of your sick mind. You're one of the sickest reporters I know. Go to the next question. You're a sick person.